Why do people view autism as a disability but not ADHD? I have been diagnosed with ADHD and I think I may also have autism. But I feel like people don't take my ADHD seriously. I feel like if you hear someone say like he has autism, automatically people start feeling sympathy. But if someone says he has ADHD, then it's more like blamed. IDK. I always see people saying that ADHD is caused by sugar or something that's preventable. But ADHD is a brain development disorder. Same with autism. But some people treat autism like an actual disorder and not ADHD, when they're both disabilities. Join the club. I have a disorder where the most common response is, "Have you tried not having it?" Or treating me with extreme caution. Because ADHD presents itself the same way it would if a child was being a nuisance. So it was attributed to misbehavior more than an illness or a compulsion. Because when you say this person has autism, most neurotypicals picture someone who doesn't have the cognitive function to speak. And when you say this person has ADHD, they picture a 5-year-old boy who can't sit still in class. High-masking autistics are also often dismissed because they're so normal, but paradoxically enough a lot of them are still ostracized by peers or as children by adults because they're weird. Just not weird enough to be recognized as autistic. Lack of understanding. From the outside, people with ADHD look a lot like people who aren't trying even though they are trying as hard as they can. Most people don't know what either of them actually are. So a weighted consideration of the two relative to one another is kind of a tall order. You'll find this to be the case with most invisible disabilities and even researched and well-known obvious ailments. People assume they know, despite not knowing. There is medication that treats ADHD to a manageable level in most cases, allowing most people who have mild to moderate cases to live as if they did not have the disorder. There is currently no widespread treatment for autism. Because most people have never seen how severe ADHD can get, and their perception of it is that you have difficulties focusing and staying still, and that's it. At the same time, autism often makes people think of the more extreme end of the spectrum. One huge factor I want to add to the other responses here is that our current understanding of autism and ADHD is still very new and constantly evolving and changing based on new information. Thinking back to 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, the general attitude about these conditions was very different. I think science is only beginning to unlock the complexities of neurodiversity and of mental health overall. Because most people still don't believe ADHD is real. Part of why people take ADHD less seriously is because everybody knows someone who is diagnosed with it, and they are visible, going to school, doing all kind of jobs, making YouTube content. So it seems they are doing fine. Not everybody knows someone with autism. And depending on where they are on the spectrum, people with autism can have extreme difficulty with functioning in the world. And people think about those more severe cases when they compare things. They are both disorders. But a disorder does not need to be a disability. Disorder and disability are not the same. Guy at work has pretty severe ADHD. We all know he can't control it. Medicated, he's manageable. Unmedicated, we have to exercise a lot of patience. Maybe my work isn't the norm, but we handle the occasionally erratic behavior just fine. People that are severely autistic are nonverbal and unable to live independently as adults. It's clearly a disability. People are more likely to identify visible disabilities as disabilities. Invisible disabilities are harder for people to understand. There are also degrees to which someone is disabled. Because people self-diagnose with ADHD and really stretch the diagnostic criteria to fit in them. So now when you hear someone has ADHD, you think they're like those dramatic TikTokers who think not wanting to do your homework or tidying your room is a sign of a disability. Other people think that's what ADHD actually is. Just normal laziness, so why should I feel bad for you when most people hate tidying their space? And those who like cleaning are of course TikTok diagnosed as having OCD. Because some disabilities are more crippling than others. I get it. I got diagnosed with ADHD when I was younger, and while I think it's a much milder case, it's not hard to deal with. It causes me issues, but I can adapt fairly easily. Even people with less severe autism have more serious issues than me. ADHD, if it's bad enough, you can take medicine and it helps, if not resolves the issue. You can't do that with autism. I have Asperger's and ADHD. I'll disclose the ADHD at work, and then any unusual behavior is attributed to that instead of people considering Asperger's as a possibility. I find that for most people ADHD is much less stigmatized than Asperger's, and is more likely to have you perceived as a little quirky but overall a functioning adult instead of being infantilized like if people know you have autism. Why do people view autism as a disability but not ADHD? I've never seen a non-verbal ADHD adult paint the walls with their own feces and then proceed to smear it in their own hair. But I have seen that from several non-verbal autistic adults. That's my initial reasoning. Societally though, I think ADHD is probably more viewed as a refusal to focus, while autism is seen as an incapability instead of a refusal. Like for example, you can train yourself out of being OCD with enough hard work and effort. But you can't train yourself out of schizophrenia. IDK though. I'm no doctor. They're both invisible disabilities, and neither is taken seriously by people if you appear high functioning enough. Actually, ADHD is taken more seriously. Doctors prescribe medication to deal with ADHD, while there's nothing given for autism. I am dyslexic as fuck. Constantly get responses of your argument is invalid because you made a grammatical error. It sucks, but there is not much I can do about it. If it's something I care a lot about, I will take extra time to check it's not messed up. And I often go back and fix things if I notice it's wrong. But trust me, saying I am dyslexic gets zero sympathy. Been unmatched on Tinder for spelling things wrong. It's a disability, but it's invisible. If I was missing a foot, at least people would see it. Not that I want that, just an example of society's double standards. From my personal experience, mild ADHD only affects your academics or your ability to do white-collar jobs. Sitting quietly and doing something on the computer with focus seems to be a problem. Whereas mild autism can also lead to social interaction problem. Even a nice person can appear as an asshole because he is just blunt and tries to follow rules to the T. It's because so many PPL use it as an excuse for being scatter-brained once in a while. I have been diagnosed and I have stopped telling anyone because of the same old eye roll. Because a lot of people self-diagnose as having ADHD while in reality they're just lazy. I have depression. And when it was quite severe, I was getting disability payment from the government. But people still say to just try to be happy. I get where you're coming from, lol. Because most people these days just assume they have ADHD. Whereas even if people suspect they might have autism, it's not half as common to label yourself undiagnosed as autistic. I'm actually diagnosed with ADHD. And I can't tell you how many coworkers I have that have undiagnosed ADHD and love to talk about how they have it. In fact, most people, when I tell them I have ADHD, tell me I don't seem like I do compared to those that lie about having it because I don't act obnoxious as hell about it and wear it like a badge. People think if they can't focus extremely well, they must have ADHD. Totally unaware of what it's actually like having it.